Welcome to Taiwan Talks. My name is Annie. The U.S. China Financial Working Group convened a two-day meeting in Beijing in mid-January, marking the group's third gathering since its inception in September 2023. It was notably their first session in China. Discussions centered on financial stability and, of course, capital market issues. Now, these recurring meetings signify a thaw in the relations between the world's two largest economic powers. How significantly does this impact the relationship among the U.S., China, and Taiwan? Joining us today are Leonard Chao, National Tsinghua University Adjunct Professor. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Professor Tsai Jung-hsiang, National Chung-Cheng University Political Science Professor. Welcome back to the show. After the 2023 Biden-Xi meeting, U.S.-China relations exhibited improvement. The latest discussions in Beijing by the U.S.-China Economic and Financial Working Group underscored Presidents Biden and Xi Jinping's earnest commitment to creating durable communication channels between their nations. Now, additionally, U.S. Secretary of State Blinken, speaking recently at a World Economic Forum, noted that the upcoming year is expected to see a surge in interactions between the U.S. and Chinese leaders. This initiative aims to ensure that U.S.-China competition does not devolve into conflicts. Now, Ambassador, after seeing all these and you saw what Blinken, said earlier at the WEF forum, how would you assess the present status of this, let's say, friendly relationship between the U.S. and China at this point of time?
First, I'd like to point out that it's funny. You should, name the subject, the topic of this discussion is U.S.-China Rapprochement. Okay, on the first page, because that reminds me of one thing. Last October, there was a group of the national from the Washington D.C. National Committee on American Foreign Policy. It's in short NCAFP. That was the delegation. They sent the delegate over to Taiwan, meeting and talking with the three candidates of the three parties, of the election last year. And one of the meetings, I was there too.
Right, okay.
And I brought up the issue during the Q&A with the American delegation members. I brought up exactly the same term, rapprochement. I used the term, a great minds think alike. I used the term, I say giving the looming rapprochement between U.S. and China. And then one of the members, Raymond Burkhart, the former AIT, Director General in Taiwan, he kind of politely corrected me by saying, I don't know if that's a rapprochement between U.S. and China. Okay, that's what he said. And then he further up, elaborated. But now the Taiwan Talks use that term again, and I feel I'm not alone. Okay, I'm glad to see that. Now back to this U.S.-China Economic and Financial Working Group, meeting. Okay, that was as you say, that is the third time, taking place, and this time the first time was held in Beijing, in China.
Yeah.
Last time, I think first in the San Francisco, and then later in Bangkok. This is the first time held in China. But as a matter of fact, this financial, working group meeting was initiated. This idea, the concept was initiated by U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Yellen last year in San Francisco before the summit between Xi and Biden in November. I think that was a good idea because the U.S. obviously tried to soften up the relation. I think obviously U.S. is on the current continuing path, trying to seek to ease tensions between the two powers, which has been long-standing for the last 5+ or 6+ years, the U.S.-China tensions. So they try to ease the tension, solve the tension. So this economic and financial group meeting is either both less political and less military. Both are very sensitive, nature. So and then of course the military dialogue has not yet to be taking place. And now the financial economic meeting, the first went out, and then I think that was a successful try by U.S. and China. Both countries are in need of this kind of a gesture to ease up their current existing tensions. Now, superficially, the financial group meeting was talking about the issues ranging from financial stability in both countries and to the so-called countering money laundering, okay, which has been existing between two countries.
Right.
I know that brought about some of the complications or issues. Okay, that's a superficial subject, but in essence, this kind of a contact between U.S. and China high-level officials, Janet Yellen and also Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng, they met. That was a good beginning to pave the way for the future better rapprochement, to use the term,
Right.
for the future relationship. So I think this is a beginning.
Right.
The U.S. China are trying to stay a step away from the past tension, which is not serving the interests of both powers.
Right. So, like what Ambassador just said earlier, it is very important that what they're doing right now is literally paving the way for the next step. But Professor, like what Ambassador said, it was to ease tension, at least from the U.S. side and also from the China side. But we're also looking at Taiwan issues. We're also looking at the disputes in South China Sea and also the trade and export restrictions and controls. Are these not going to be the matters anymore? How is all these currently involved will still be able to help ease the tension?
Yeah, because if you try to look at the China situation now, under Xi Jinping, China is facing economic headwinds,
Right.
and such as sluggish economic growth, soaring national debt, and declining foreign direct investment, and also have a very, very high youth unemployment and a shrinking population. So Xi Jinping is in a bad fix, and so that's why he has to look for a short-term tactical pose in U.S. China competition. I wouldn't say it's a rapprochement, right? Because there are a lot of issues, there are a lot of disagreements they cannot deal with.
Right.
South China Sea, or maybe some other stuff, right? So having meeting with each other is fine. They can ease tensions, but it's a long shot for both sides. And Rome was not built in one day.
In one day.
That's the phrase.
Right.
Okay.
So, and to follow up on your question, as we're seeing that there's a sluggish economic growth in China, so do you think they're opening this financial dialogue? It's going to definitely a very important strategy for China at this point of time, in your perspective. A very important strategy for China at this point of time to reopen this dialogue with the U.S. financially, given
Yes.
that they have a slow economic
Because
downturn.
their main goal is try to have some dialogue,
Right.
and they try to resume dialogue with the Treasury Department. You know why? Because they will focus on the tariffs levied by Donald Trump and continued by President Biden, right? So that's their top priority. And also that China would like to get more details about Biden's restriction on U.S. investment in Chinese high-tech companies, because this is we call U.S. de-risking policy.
Right.
So U.S. has imposed export control targeting advanced semiconductor technology to China, and also try to investigate friendshoring or moving its supply chains to some friendly countries. So that's the reason, because you have to dialogue with the United States, and then he can buy some time and he can fix his economy. That's the number one issue for Xi Jinping right now.
Right. Okay. Ambassador, and what's your view on this?
And I think the process is more is worth watching than the outcome. We don't know what the outcome will come back, but I think the U.S. I think Biden is definitely he's committed to having some kind of this is not a rapprochement, I say that, but kind of a quasi soften up gesture toward China. And but let's wait and see, because that is a long way to go. A long way to go. After all, the U.S.-China current relations has involved a lot of complications, and not only has something to do with the international situation, but also with the domestic politics as well, particularly U.S. Congress. More specifically, the Republican, hawkish Republican, they're watching Biden very closely. So I think that's a strategy for Biden. I would like to point out that from the Biden's perspective, he bears in mind at the current time well, the top priority on the top of the list of his agenda is not the U.S. China relations. If I may frankly point out, his first concern, his top priority is the re-election. Re-election. His campaign is coming up. As you know, just today or yesterday, Donald Trump has passed, the primary process. Definitely, Donald Trump, like Ron DeSantis and some other, they have, put out, let Trump to be on the Republican ticket.
Right.
So Republican, candidate would be Trump for sure. And then Biden has to clear up his strategy, how to counter again, this the former competitor.
Right.
Now they meet again. It's a new duo. Okay, so everything he did, everything he's doing, Donald Trump at home and overseas definitely has some relevance to his campaign strategy.
Right. Back to U.S.-China relations, as we see that, Yellen has also been iterating a couple of times that decoupling is not going to work and decoupling is impractical. And especially Yellen also plans another visit to China during this increasing high-level relation between the two superpower nations. Now, I would like to know, what do you think this will mean for the geopolitics of the entire Indo-Pacific region? Ambassador?
The U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy is still going on, although Donald Trump, he kept, defining this term, U.S., the Indo-Pacific strategy. As a matter of fact, Indo-Pacific, strategy was coined by Donald Trump.
Right. Yes.
During his presidency.
Yes.
And now, and then Biden seemed to follow suit for what Donald Trump, initiated policy. As you might recall, that we used to describe this region. It's Asia Pacific. I think we have used that for decades. But now Donald Trump, he changed that to Indo-Pacific, not Asia Pacific. And then, of course, our foreign ministry, followed that closely, and the Biden's term. And now the Indo-Pacific strategy is still going on, but with a different nature. I don't know. I think that some country, including Taiwan, it deserves our attention, deserves our our being alert that if Donald Trump came back, will he continue, fulfilling this Indo-Pacific strategy, or because that he's gonna flip flop, the president. I don't know if the Indo-Pacific strategy will continue. However, the U.S.-China relation is still the name of the game. The name of the game is still the master, the theme of the U.S. foreign policy, the U.S.-China tension, U.S.-China strategy, U.S.-China, deterrent. So we don't know what will happen, but it's worth watching, and we have no reason to loosen up, our alert and attention.
But as we're seeing this increasing potential relationship between U.S. and China right now, and if we're going back to the Indo-Pacific region, Professor, do you think there may also be a potential realignment or reshuffling of these allies of these two nations?
Yeah, because the U.S. is planning to advance, Indo-Pacific Economic Framework,
right.
IPEF. It's a countermeasure to compete with China Belt and Road Initiative, or we say RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership.
Right.
So, but for Yellen, she's going to China again, right?
Yeah.
And she revealed her 2024 plan just a while ago, and her top priority was to improve Sino-U.S. Economic ties, including improving communications between two largest economies, pushing Beijing for greater transparency, enhancing regulatory cooperation, and tackling thorny issues like terror financing and the flow of fentanyl, that kind of stuff. So it's not realistic to expect two sides, they are going to deal with all the problems once and for all. That's my comment. Yeah.
But as we're seeing right now, Ambassador also mentioned earlier that re-election definitely is one of the most top priority for the U.S. president at this point of time. But we're seeing that economically speaking, there seems to be a little bit of growth to ease the tension. But as we're seeing, the trade and export control is still going on. Do you think, as aside from the Indo-Pacific region that's coined by Trump, the tariff is also initiated by Trump. Do you think the U.S. will still continue carry on with this while China is still really concerned about this export controls?
Sure. I think that the trade dispute will be will be continuing, okay, for foreseeable future, and I don't think it's going to be changed, very soon, because Biden is not going to do anything about the current dispute because his days are numbered, and if he's going to be reelected or Trump is coming back to the White House, the U.S. definitely will be in a position to reevaluate the outcome of this the China trade dispute. But speaking about the realignment and of course the reshuffling, I would like to point out another related point of observation is that the China itself is still it's a kind of a vicious cycle between U.S. and China. Before the U.S. anti-China policy still a reality. So the Beijing's relentless over the past few years, Beijing's relentless assertiveness, okay, is heightening certain anxiety in its neighboring countries. Okay, some of the Indo-Pacific this region, the Philippines, Vietnam, and India, and some other Southeast Asian countries. So this kind of the U.S. The Chinese hawkish stance somehow has convinced, if not has compelled, some of the countries in this part of the world to put this way, to ditch its hedging.
Okay.
Okay. The China, it's easier to let those countries in the Pacific region to take no sides, to keep a balance stand between U.S. and China, two powers. Maybe we keep mentioning that security rely on the U.S. Economically have to be attached to China.
Yeah.
It's easier said than done. But still, somehow at the current time, most of the country, if not all of the country in this part of the world, they're trying to ditch a hedge in kind of to play safe, to take maybe lean toward U.S. But because Chinese assertiveness still going on.
Right.
That's a reality.
Okay, now back to what we're saying. The U.S. House of Representatives also recently passed the Taiwan Non-Discrimination Act, directing U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen to use U.S. influence in the IMF to help Taiwan's admission. Now, additionally, the Protect Taiwan Act also requires a strong U.S. response, including possible measures like advocating for China's exclusions from many major financial bodies such as G20 and BIS, should China threaten Taiwan's security and economic stability. Membership in the IMF, as we all know, they empower a country to help negotiate assistance agreements with the International Monetary Fund amidst economic instability or major fluctuations in foreign exchange. This will facilitate economic stabilization and also help prevent financial collapse and bankruptcy. Now, given Taiwan's current situation, Professor, I would like to know, what significance do you think that this Taiwan Non-Discrimination Act hold, and what impact does it have?
Okay. The BS says Taiwan is the 21st largest economy in the world, and Taiwan is the U.S. 10th trading partner, and Taiwan is a member of WTO, Asian Development Bank, and APEC, but Taiwan is not an IMF member.
Right.
So the thing is that we have a very vibrant, advanced economy, and we have democracy, and we can follow the rule of law, so Taiwan can inform the work of IMF. So we can help, right? But because since joining IMF is very, very difficult, we know that because maybe it requires a statehood, right? Something like that. But U.S. Try to help Taiwan, to join a lot of international organizations. As I remember, there's a number. It has been like 3,000 international organizations Taiwan really participates now. Maybe we cannot join the UN, but still we have been participating a lot of international organizations. But a lot of Taiwanese people, we don't know that, right? We say, because we cannot get into the UN. So, but it doesn't mean we don't participate in international activities.
But as you mentioned, Taiwan is still very active among these international organizations, and with such a strong profile that we have with the numbers that you have just given us. Ambassador, what is your view on how Taiwan can help bolster its presence in these international organizations?
Well, there's a long-standing question. Okay, we keep asking the question for years,
Right.
And since we have been suffering from the international isolation, and we have kind of victimized by the U.S. China tensions for the past few years. I would like to honestly point out that we have to face the reality. We have to live with the reality. And because that's a reality, unfortunately, reality that we are not allowed to participate in a certain international organization as we deserve to be in. However, the U.S. So we have to keep communicating with the United States government. But now that you mentioned about the U.S. Congress passed a certain bill, based on my past experience in Washington D.C., okay, I was in charge of our congressional liaison office, liaison for certain years back in 1990s. I would like to say that we always appreciate, always grateful to the U.S. Congress, the friends on the Capitol Hill, for their kind support. All right, but now that the U.S. congressional friendly action have to be taken into a context of the execution. Mm-hmm. The U.S. congressional bills, congressional acts, as a matter of fact, most of the time is sense of the Congress. Sense of the Congress, that is very encouraging. Okay, it's encouraging. Okay, it's good to boost our morale. The people in Taiwan, okay, we feel we're not alone. Mm-hmm. We have some friends in the U.S., in Washington, D.C., on the Capitol Hill. But the U.S., we have to pay attention to how could those bills be executed. Mm-hmm. The execution, to see the reality, to get them not only passed on the Congress, but have to be executed in the executive branch, mm-hmm. namely State Department, can put those bills in actions. Mm-hmm. That's what matters. Mm-hmm. Okay, we cannot. Okay, because like I've been involved when I was in Washington. The U.S. congressional bill is good. It's appreciated. However, we have to cover both ends. So let me put it this way: cover both ends of the Pennsylvania Avenue. Mm-hmm. Pennsylvania Avenue is Washington D.C. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The Pennsylvania is a local term, political term. Mm-hmm. On the east side, on the Pennsylvania Avenue is a Capitol Hill, mm-hmm. House and Senate. On the west end is the U.S. executive branch and the White House, NSC and the State Department. So I have to say that we have to cover both ends. Mm-hmm. Not put the basket only for the U.S. Congress. So we have to keep a balancing, observation of this this bill.
And speaking of balancing, Professor, back to you. We also mentioned that the Protect Taiwan Act, which is a little bit more towards China, but do you think it is possible to really exclude China from such organizations like G20?
No. Yeah, I think the Protect Act is a measure of deterrence by punishment. It is post-hoc because after China invades Taiwan, they're gonna kick China out of the international organizations, something like that. So it's preventative measure. It's a preventative measure. So. But U.S. in the meantime, U.S. been doing the deterrence by denial, because U.S. say we have ability to militarily defeat China. Mm-hmm. So you have to think twice before you try to invade Taiwan. For U.S., it was China, not Taiwan, that began rocking the ball. So that's why Taiwan is so important to the United States. Uh-huh. Even just a sense of Congress, right? Uh-huh. But still, you can see a lot of past bills related to Taiwan, right? It's very good for Taiwanese people, and they can reach across the aisle in Congress, no matter Democrats or Republicans. Mm-hmm. It's a consensus. Mm-hmm. They fight with each other on many issues, but not about Taiwan. Right. That's the importance here.
And speaking of Taiwan, again, we mentioned a rapprochement this term many times today. Ambassador, lastly, what do you think is Taiwan's role in the current U.S.-China rapprochement at this point in time?
Taiwan's government, towards China is only one seat, confrontation. Mm-hmm. We don't have any communication with China, as you know very well. Right, yeah. And so now how can we, try to now the U.S. and obviously U.S. and they're trying to soften up the relation, try to improve the relations with China, and then I think to take the most recent example, recent thing that when the Lai Ching-te was elected, and the U.S. Senate delegation, to Taiwan, as you know that, and when the Biden was informed of the election, the result of Taiwan, I think his gut reaction is that I don't support Taiwan independence. instead of congratulations, he could at least, express some polite, congratulatory message to our newly elected president. But instead, he said, "Oh, I don't support, Taiwan independence." Definitely, that's something to do with Lai Ching-te's foreign policy about Taiwan independence. He's a realistic Taiwan independence supporter. So I think this is not considered very, very warm and very amiable gesture. So we have to keep that in mind.
Okay, lastly, I would still like to have Professor's perspective on this because Ambassador just mentioned that there's a senior delegation from the U.S. that visited President Tsai Ing-wen and also President-elect Lai Ching-te. So what is your overall perspective on this?
But U.S. didn't say we oppose Taiwan independence. So that's the reassurance to the Chinese government. Even Lai Ching-te got elected, right? The DPP got re-elected. Re-elected again. But still, we want to show American support for Taiwan's democracy. And it's a reassurance to China. Don't take reckless actions. Even you don't like the candidate, you don't like the new president. But it's a reassurance. It's nothing to do with they try to say, oh, this is Taiwan's fault. Because they try to put the blame on China, not Taiwan, no matter which candidate gets elected.
All right, thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like our show, please search for us on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up and hit subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for watching our show today. Stay safe and see you all next time.